Kevin the Retro Gamer, and like I promised, it's time to count down the top 7 worst Crash Bandicoot games. So let's get this started. Number 7, Crash Bandicoot Purple. Now, the main problem with this game is, actually, let me start with the good stuff, because this game isn't bad, it's just decent. I mean, the Crash games, they really have a lot of good games, so even number 7 worst is decent, so don't freak out any Crash Bandicoot fans. But the promise of a Crash and Spyro crossover game really sounded cool, but the problem with it is it's just a bunch of party games, you know, and I don't really feel like it's worth, like, what it promised. And it's a good game, like, it's a good pack of mini-games, but the idea, I don't know, it just feels like a rip-off partly, because all it is a bunch of mini-games with Crash. And I like some of them, but a lot of them are pretty annoying, so that's what makes this the number 7 worst game. Number 6, Crash Bandicoot Blast. So, this game is okay, you know, but it really doesn't have much to do with Crash Bandicoot in any way, and all it really is like a shooting gallery. But I don't mind it. It's alright, but I don't know, it's just a shooting gallery. It really doesn't have much to it, and that is the main problem with the game for the most part. But what I do like about it is I like that it kind of reminds me of the Jak and Daxter target minigames where you have to shoot specific targets, you know, but you can't shoot other targets like Polar or Coco. You can't shoot those two. But everything else is basically shootable. So it's not completely bad, but, you know, it really doesn't have much to do with Crash Bandicoot, and that's what pushes it down. So without, any further time, let us move on. Number 5. Crash Party USA. Yep, so this is another GBA game. Yeah, there's a lot of GBA games on this list, as you could tell. And the main problem with this GBA game specifically is really the fact, again, like the shooting game, it has nothing to do with Crash. And I don't know, it's alright, like, it's fun to watch. Crash did a little Crash dance. But aside from that, there's really not much good to get from it, really. You can't really find a lot in it. It's really just a rhythm game, and, you know, I have no problem with rhythm games, but again, that's not my style, and I'm not really a big fan of rhythm games. So that's why this is number 5 on the list. Number 4, Crash Nitro Kart 3D. So, this game is very mediocre. You know, it's very uncreative. And it's not necessarily a bad game, I guess it kind of is. Because we are pretty far in this list, so it's at the point where it's kind of mediocre. It's almost close to bad. Like, it's in the middle, but it's leaning very close to terrible and bad. So the problem with this game is, it's terrible. Like, the controls are horrible. Like, you have to tilt the controller just to move. And it's terrible, like, the way you have to control it. And that's, like, one of the biggest problems with the game. And you have to swipe the touchscreen to use your power-ups. And the fade-in, like, the way the tracks fade in, that's terrible. Like, it's very weird the way it fades in, too. Like, it's bad, you know, poppin'. And, the other biggest problem is that it literally rips off tracks from one of the best Crash games, Crash Tag Team Racing. And that's a terrible thing to do. Like, I know I said that the Wrath of Cortex was very similar to Crash 3 and Crash 2, but here's the thing about the Wrath of Cortex. That game had its own levels and its own story. It merely only copied the gameplay, but this copied the gameplay except for morphing cars, and took all the tracks, most of the tracks at least, from Tag Team Racing. Every track in this game is literally a ripoff. And that is why this is number 4. Let's move on to the next one. Number 3, Crash of the Titans for the GBA. That's right, we're getting into some real crap now. This game is just bad. This is like a terrible port of Crash of the Titans. So, the story kind of copies the same story from the DS version of Crash of the Titans, which is a much better game. I even think it's partly better than the actual Crash of the Titans, in my personal opinion. but it wasn't high enough to get into the top 7 list. This game, however, is a terrible port. It's much worse than even it's much worse than the GBA games that were based on the classic Crash. So if you want to get some Crash on GBA, don't play this abomination. Play some actual GBA games, unlike this one. This game is a total abomination, and all the bosses are a joke. Most of the levels are the same, and it repeats so much. And it's just a crappy 2D beat-em-up game. You barely even platform to me. Well, actually, no, you do, but, the platforming is terrible. So, that's why this game is number 3. Number 2. This game is a total joke. Crash of the Titans was an amazing 3D game on the DS that played like the classic games. This freaking game, is so terrible that, it just craps itself almost. It's basically like the GBA version of Crash of the Titans, and I'm sure it could fit on the GBA with how terrible it is. If they didn't have that 3D Crash, I'm sure it could have easily been known as a GBA game, because it doesn't make any use of the DS either. It's pretty much a cop-out, and most of the graphics in this just rip off Titans, which is just, it's just terrible. And every asset in this is literally from Titans, and that is pure laziness. The gameplay is almost like Titans for the GBA, but it's much worse the way they've done it. This game is just terrible. It's an abomination. And if this game's terrible, imagine how terrible the next one is. The thing about this game is, it's at least something like the original Crash games. It at least has the characters act like their original characters. But this next one has nothing to do with anything from Crash at all. So, let's move on to the final one. Number 1! This freaking retarded game is the worst thing I've ever seen. It is horrible. This game has nothing good to do with Crash. None of the areas have anything to do with Crash. None of the characters act like they're supposed to act. And it's retarded, the way they made it. And, you have to blow into balloons and crap to do these mini-games. And what's even worse is this is the 10th anniversary game, which makes it a big disgrace to the franchise. And, it's just really not fun at all, honestly. And, this game is just terrible. The phone port is just as bad, so this port and the phone port of this game are tied. So, yeah, but I'm going to show the DS version, which is, it's about just as bad as the other one. So, hey, 2 terrible games in one, Isn't that just great? Never pick up this game if you see it on sale for the Nintendo DS, because this game is the worst thing ever in the Crash series. I hate this game with a passion. This game is like a total ripoff for any Crash fans, because it barely has anything to do with the Crash series. It's just some weird, retarded bunny guy, talking about, I'm gonna, make these guys do a competition and stuff. And really, the screen, whenever you do something, it freaking says boom or bang. Wow, what a great way to play the game so you can barely freaking see the screen. How smart, guys. Great job. Well, that was a pleasant, rage-filled top 7 list, wasn't it? So, next time we do a top 7 list, it'll be on another game like Ratchet and Clank. Maybe you guys can give me some suggestions, like top 7 Spyro games, top 7 Ratchet and Clank games, top 7 Ratchet and Clank gun mods, or even top 7 Hardest Jack 2 missions. The choice is yours. I'll even let you guys pick this time. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, check out some other videos, and we'll do some top 7 lists later in the summer. See you guys later, and I'm out. Peace.